Hello and welcome to the program. I am Suren. Today I intend to continue a little bit more about the subject matter I have started to speak about in my previous program titled My Experience with JWs, which stands for Jehovah's Witnesses. I found the subject very intriguing, so therefore I shall continue for a little while, hoping that you have listened to my other program, or you are likely to do so soon, without bias and prejudice, because it is presented just like that. If we, as a complete and civilized human society, consider the existence of a truly wicked and evil people around our world, we should also first include such cults like Jehovah's Witnesses. They too are the most dangerous grouping of humans, with their teachings and control mechanism conducted from within their Brooklyn headquarters they name as the governing body. Just look into their history without ignoring any truths, and then consider the tragic stories of genuine people who had unique experiences whilst adhering to their faith, rejected, excommunicated, ignored, judged, and condemned as the wrongdoers. After befriending with them, and when the people decide to leave their organization, or they are being removed by the decree of their so-called judicial committee for their supposed wrongs or their questioning the spirit, many were rendered lonely, miserable, and in fact suicidal. Psychological study shows that many such mental disorders are more common amongst the Jehovah's Witnesses. Then one needs to ask, is it a godly practice to destroy other people's lives? How come that Jesus teaches us to love one another? Yet many witnesses claim of Jesus declaring that he came not to bring peace, but the sword. Is that what they are practicing? Can one really consider the teachings of witnesses equal to Christ's teachings? When there can be no true peace and genuine love, when there is only sword, as they claim, being the wisdom of Christ, there can be no goodness with Jehovah's Witnesses. They are not doing their God's will, but the one who opposes all light. Now, this part may be a little too painful for Jehovah's Witnesses, but it has to be spoken of nevertheless. In this I shall most certainly agree with Jason Thickpenny, who was an ex-Jehovah's Witness, and I had discovered his courageous programs he had been presenting on the social media. I'll say good on him. We need few more people like him in the world, talking freely to people who are free to think and be. In one of his programs, he was asking Jehovah's Witnesses to wake up. I can only admire his standpoint and the way he presents his ideas. But I very much doubt if Jehovah's Witnesses would be allowed to watch them or hearken to reason and the truth. Therein he makes mention of the Bible text, as with John 15, verses 8 and 10, wherein it is written, "My Father is glorified in this, if you observe my commandments, you will remain in my love, just as I have observed the commandments of the Father and remain in his love." He quotes from the Watchtower magazine, March 15, 1989, page 28, where one reads, "The fruit of love is evident among Jehovah's Witnesses." Are they joking? Furthermore, Jason specifically speaks of three important issues in regards to Jehovah's Witnesses. And I agree with him. He makes mention of several young teenagers being abused by a number of elders who are supposedly appointed by Jehovah. One had been imprisoned for a period of time, but many others had not been reported to the police, although elders had known about the abuses. Others had not been reported due to them being apparently repentant. One other abuse case about a violent husband against his wife and children was concluded by the elders, declaring that the wife was in need to become a better wife. He considers the issues in regards to the blood transfusions Jehovah's Witnesses never allow. And many young and some old people have unnecessarily lost their lives. Imagine a mother having a brain hemorrhage during a childbirth and refusing the transfusion, thus leaving her children motherless. Alas, this has happened many times over. Paul Blizzard is well known in some circles and by myself. He and his wife's story is very intriguing because they kicked out Jehovah's Witnesses and allowed the blood transfusion to save their daughter's life. They too were disfellowshipped for not obeying Jehovah's commandment and watching their daughter die in front of their eyes. A 15-year-old teen after a nasty car crash and a 14-year-old leukemia sufferer have died after refusing blood transfusions. Jason also points to another problem of issues in regards to shunning their former members. A number of former witnesses have committed suicide after being shunned by their only friends, the Jehovah's Witnesses, and their own families. One woman had committed suicide after being thrown out of their organization due to her addiction to smoking. Another well-known case was that of James Olson. He died having thrown himself off the Brooklyn headquarters after his parents forced him to go back after he tried to resign. There are too many cases like this. Look at the text we have considered just before, just like Jason did. My Father is glorified in this, that you keep bearing much fruit and prove yourselves my disciples, if you observe my commandments you will remain in my love, just as I have observed the commandments of the Father and remain in his love. John chapter 15, verses 8 and 10. Remember what also Jason pointed out in Watchtower magazine of 15th of 1989, page 28. The fruit of love is evident among Jehovah's Witnesses. Like Jason points out, I agreeingly repeat those words. The evidence suggests otherwise. He advises Jehovah's Witnesses to wake up to the fact that theirs is not God's organization. We read also within Jesus' words, "You will know them by their fruit." All their prophecies have been proven to be false, and the world did not end on May the 22nd, 2012. On the other hand, Jehovah's Witnesses consider every disfellowship person as their enemy and shun them. What about Jesus' intimate words? Love your enemies. Remember that he said unto his disciples, as we read in the Bible, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but by me. John chapter 14, verse 6. Only recently we have discovered that the Watchtower had joined the UN, and yet we were constantly told that Jehovah's Witnesses would never join the world's politics. So, what is going on? The world, we were told, was controlled by the all-powerful Satan. Therefore, we were encouraged to think that all the political system belonged to him. At this stage, I can only urge you to listen carefully and intently to what we are considering here, as in this program, as true friends, genuinely concerned about the humanity. Personally, I love life and the entire humanity unconditionally. I hope that you have listened to my experiences with Jehovah's Witnesses program, and if not, then perhaps you will consider doing so without any bias and prejudice soon. Remember, it is presented on as-is basis, without blaming anybody or remaining completely truthful, because my story is actual and it is real. It is a resume of a part of my life's story in regards to Jehovah's Witnesses and my involvement with them. However, it is not presented to be judgmental against anybody or to paint some people as wicked, unlike some people like Jehovah's Witnesses have painted me, and those like me. If you happen to be a practicing Jehovah's Witness, take note of what is being spoken, although you might be discouraged to discover the real truth by not visiting any of the social media sites on the worldwide internet or the lending libraries. If you are a non-Jehovah's Witness and wanting to know all about them again without any prejudice or bias, you are welcome to listen to my previous programs and watch the following ones. Therein, you will discover a few hidden truths about what they preach and do, and those issues which they do not want you to know. One thing is certain, that they have indeed stolen a large chunk of my youth. Yet I have survived. Knowing what I knew, I have decided to tell you a few facts, using a number of Bible texts and encouraging you to think independently to discover what you are dealing with. I intend to offer you some friendly advice as an ex-member of their organization who had been also shunned by all my witness friends, including my wife and children, while being treated like a criminal, indeed like a wicked evildoer, for questioning the Spirit. Originally, I am a doctor of psychology. Although retired, I still occupy myself helping anybody with their dilemmas in a limited fashion. I am also a philosopher and an artist. I am still teaching art and exhibiting my works worldwide. I conduct discussion groups on philosophical and scientific considerations. I am a person who ardently desires to see a happier world around me, and am not against any religious ideal or belief system, although I do not follow any theological order. But I do question the existence of an esoteric God and his supposed opposition, the devil, especially after what I have experienced with my ex-wife. Maybe I should thank her. However, it is indeed an issue of good and evil as considered throughout the human history. Let me quote from the Jehovah's Witness publication Awake, July 2014 issue, page 15, where one reads the following words. The true religion teaches the truth from God's Word, the Bible. John chapter 4, verse 24, and chapter 17, verse 17 quotes, God is a spirit, and they that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. Sanctify them through your truth. Your word is truth. True religion helps people get to know God, including his name. John chapter 17, verses 3 and 6. This is life eternal, it says, that they might know you, the only true God, and Jesus Christ, whom you have sent. However, we also read in the Bible that God announces his name being only I am that I am. True religion promotes unselfish love. John chapter 13, verse 15. For I have given you an example, that you should do as I have done to you. It teaches people to respect all ethnic groups, to avoid sharing in the wars of nations. Micah chapter 4, verse 14. True religion is a way of life. Its members practice what they preach. Romans chapter 2, verse 21. 1 John chapter 3, verse 18 indicates, "You therefore who teaches another, do you not teach yourself? You who preach a man not to steal, do you steal? My little children, let us not love in word, neither in tongue, but in deed and in truth." John chapter 13, verse 35. By this all will know that you are my disciples, if you have love among yourselves. Hebrews chapter 10, verses 24 and 25 mentions, "Let us consider one another so as to incite to love and fine works, not forsaking our meeting together." Are Jehovah's Witnesses truly practicing what they preach? Question: have you ever been shunned by your family and friends? Have you ever been kicked out of an organization wherein you were loved only as long as you danced to their drumming and their music, and afterwards felt abandoned, lonely, and suicidal? Many former Jehovah's Witnesses have experienced it after being judged and disfellowshipped. This trend was more evident when they were met by the currently active witnesses and being treated as if they did not exist at all as human beings. I too had my share in this type of tragic, awful treatment by them. Is it not ironic to hear them advising you on how to deal with your loss, your innermost emotions, your agony and stress? They always quote from the Bible, pointing at the text you can read from Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verses 1 and 4. In short, there is time to weep. They advise you to avoid isolating yourself. Proverbs 18, verse 1. Don't they help you to isolate yourselves completely? They advise you not to take everything said by others too seriously. So, should we take everything they say very seriously? Ecclesiastes chapter 7, verse 21 says, "Do not take heart every word that people say." They consider the Bible advice on the dead that they are going to be resurrected. However, Jehovah's Witnesses do so believing that God will resurrect only those faithful witnesses, and the rest of the humanity, like the disfellowshipped humans, like myself, will be ushered into everlasting damnation. For, apparently, Jehovah is righteous. They advise you to pray to God for practical wisdom to deal with your circumstances, for God would pay attention to prayer of the destitute. Read Psalms 102, verse 17. However, Does one need to be utterly miserable and destitute for God to take note of the situation? According to what we are being advised, that prayer apparently helps us to draw close to God. Commendable. Psalm chapter 8, verses 3 and 4. When we often express our feelings to God, we apparently develop closer friendship with Him. According to James chapter 4, verse 8. 1 Chronicles chapter 28, verse 9 says, if you search for Jehovah, He will let Himself be found by you. And Jehovah's Witnesses will be allegedly happy to help you search for and find the invisible God, while teaching you that God is love. And Jesus advises you to love your enemies. If you are, however, disfellowshipped, you are always considered as the enemy of God, and therefore classified as the enemy of God's supposed organization on earth, namely the Watchtower Society in Brooklyn. You are forever shunned as the evildoer by all your alleged friends and your family. In reality, you are hated forever. Yes, you have heard my words correctly. You are hated forever. Are Jehovah's Witnesses indeed following the God as they preach, or the devil as they may be worshipping? Is it possible that perhaps they are doing the will of the opposer to God? For He has no mercy for the sinners and conducts His witnesses into separations and heartaches. A father, son, wife, a mother can so easily shun their partners, sons, daughters, brothers at ease and feel no emotion about anything. When the shunned ones suffer much emotional pain and extreme stress, and even commit suicide, Jehovah's Witnesses would feel still nothing. Is it really godly? Is it so spiritual? Why would anyone pretend believing in the absolutely impossible? Truth is that those who shun their friends, their fathers, sons, wives, seem to have no feelings at all. Are they the humans created in the image of God, or being just fooled into feeling this way? Remember, the word God simply is derived from the Teutonic word for good, and it stands for all things good, all things loving, and all things whole. Destruction and enmity are the products of an evil force. Again in John chapter 13, verse 35, we read on what God says, "By all this you will know that you are my disciples." In the Christian way of understanding, God is love, God is righteous, and God is forgiving. Jehovah's Witnesses speak of the importance of imitating God's loving, reasonable, and consistent discipline, and advise parents that their efforts will benefit their children. Proverbs chapter 22, verse 6 says, "Train a boy in the way he should go. Even when he grows old, he will not depart from it." But it does not indicate to abuse your child by forever beating him, sending him to bed without food, and reminding him many days later about his wrongs, and punishing him severely by perhaps breaking wooden spoons on his buttocks. Some Jehovah's Witness parents have been doing so for ages, as they still do today. What is it other than abuse? My ex-wife, the Jehovah's Witness, have also been doing it. What evil force and God could delight in inflicting pain in children or adults logically? Just think about it. Is it truly the God inspiring them to do so? Or is it the other one? My wife claimed she was following the advice given, one can read in the Watchtower magazine, July 1st edition of 2014, page 12 precisely, where we read, "Effective discipline is founded on love. When faced with a difficult situation, postpone discipline until you are calm." It does not say to beat your son to death and desperation, but it indicates to talk to your son calmly. It also encourages the parent to be consistent. If you have warned the child that a certain form of discipline will follow if he misbehaves, and be sure to follow through. Good advice. My ex-wife, too, used to warn our children that if they did not pray before meals, by the next time they would have no food. Not wanting herself look foolish in the midst of other people, as in a kingdom hall, for instance, she warned them that she would punish them when they were home. She most certainly followed through the advice given when they have already forgotten all about it, thus leading them feel always apprehensive, fearful in front of their mother, resorting to tell lies to gain favor in her eyes. This taught them to become often very pretentious, and it remained that way for a very long time. Perhaps this way they were helping themselves to feel better, and at school appearing very clearly above everybody else. I could not tell her anything, for she treated me like a child, if not a lower kind of a person, unintelligent, uncivilized, and she has never tried to listen to reason. Her method of teaching the children had to be never questioned as a real Christian mother. Especially after being thrown out of their organization for having questioned the Spirit, I was seen as a great sinner, unworthy to be considered as a human being and as a father. She often shouted at me in front of our children, saying, "Go behind me, Satan." Was this the type of discipline they were advised to follow through? According to Proverbs, chapter 4, verses 1 and 2, Jehovah's Witnesses teach that discipline is not just another word for punishment. It is related to instruction, education, and correction, and never connected with abuse or cruelty. I wonder what my ex-wife has learned since then. In this same magazine, page 7, we read, "The Bible clearly tells us that Jehovah and his Son Jesus Christ will do about the sufferings caused by Satan, the devil. For this purpose the Son of God, Jesus, was made manifest, to break up the works of the devil." 1 John chapter 12, verse 31. That may be why, in their capacity of thinking, the witnesses break up families and destroy lives of individuals by shunning them. Who knows? Without Satan's influence, a righteous new world will be established, and this earth will become a peaceful place. 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 13. One wonders, after all the sufferings they habitually cause, will Jehovah's Witnesses, who are also a part of humanity, they hate, be around to see that new order of things they preach about everywhere around the world? Proverbs 2, verses 21 and 22 say, "Only the upright will reside in the earth, and the blameless will remain in it. And for the wicked, they will be cut off from earth, and treacherous will be torn away from it." Obviously, it does not only speak of the so-called evildoers, but includes many Jehovah's Witnesses also. Indeed, God, the all-good, cannot remove the gift of free will and making humans into robots. But witnesses live by the rules and regulations set and dictated by their organization, just like automated slaves anyway, don't they? Have they by any chance got any free will or any type of freedom? This issue of Watchtower advises you, if the idea of living in a world where bad things will not happen to good people appeals to you, why not make it your aim to learn more about the true God and his purpose by studying the Bible? However, I say unto you, before attempting to do anything, do your research independently and learn about the history of any religious ideology, discovering their lifestyles without being fooled with their smiles and impressive words. Be yourself, and then decide to learn all about the Bible with them. First John chapter 5:19 says, "The whole world is lying in the power of the wicked one." And remember that Jehovah's Witnesses are also a part of that world. They are not living on a different planet. According to Bible wisdom, Satan and his demons are misleading the entire inhabited earth and causing woe for the earth. Revelation chapter 12, verses 9 and 12. This way, the principal cause for wickedness has to be placed on Satan the devil. Are Jehovah's Witnesses really so righteous, while boasting about it? According to their teachings, only one force is capable of boasting about its own existence, and that one is what they supposedly oppose. They need to be more careful about what they attempt to teach and whom they condemn. A word of advice from me as a friend of humanity and not a follower of the devil contrary to what real evildoers consider, is this: be yourself, be confident, and be strong. Do not be tempted by the tempters, going house to house and door to door, preaching about the supposed Word of God. Remember Jesus' words about the last days and the false prophets? Be very careful. Be discerning. Do not fall into the trap of abandonment and feeling guilty for being a human. I repeat, be yourself. If you have experienced disfellowshipment, strive to find like-minded people and talk with them about your innermost feelings. Know that you are never alone. Rejoice now, my friends, for you are freed from the darkness, the bondage, and the devil's clutches. Be free, laugh, frolic, and dance, for you are free to be you. Shun no one in your lives, for it truly is evil. Be at peace with yourself. Thank you for sharing this program with me. And take care until we meet again next time.